Okay, so we have our, I'll just close everything down, and I'll just run the app again, just so that we all make sure that we are well versed in how to run it. So start the app, go on reports, sorry, start the app, go on load project, pick the project folder, click on reports, and there we can see there's our first page of our first report. Open up the point tags folder, okay, and we hold down shift and left click, and we can make these little squares, which if we zoom in and out, we can see make a little square, and they're fixed to a position on the thing, on the page. If we go on to the next page and then come back, they've disappeared because we didn't save them. When we do save them, they're going to get saved to this page, whichever page they were created on. And when we come back to that page in the app, they're going to come reappear. They're attached to the page essentially. So if we scroll to a page, say this page, and we zoom in a bit, and we say we have this feature, which could be a drill hole or whatever, hold down shift, left click, wearer. If we click on save now, you can see that it's actually tagged that. If I do another one, call it Yamba, I've got two, only one up here, click on save, it's going to save the 2 points. Now as you click on these two different points, you can see that they're highlighting over here and they're highlighting over here. So we could have many points and we can click on them. If we right click on one of the points on the image, then we will see that it will select it up here. Now there's a few things that we can tag onto the points, attached to the points, metadata. So we've got a tag type and an action and a comment. And these aren't prescriptive at the moment, but we might make them more prescriptive. But if we had a tag type and it was a borehole or a collar or something, right? And this was WD15123 or whatever, right? With this highlighted, we can save it and it's going to highlight that information against that. We can highlight multiple and put in some information and then save it, and it's going to overwrite whatever's in there. We're just working to make it so that if these are null, then when because at the moment, if I highlight those, and I have one thing in here with those highlighted and I save it, see, it makes these null. But we're going to make it so that if they're null, it leaves whatever's in there alone, basically. It won't update it. So these are points. So when you save the points, what it's actually doing is it's actually making this file here called squares.json. JSON is a file type, which is the form of like a dictionary or a lookup table or a hash table or whatever you want to call it. So it has a name and a value, a name and a value, a name and a value. So we added 2 points. So we've got this and this. These are the unique ID identifiers for the different points that we've generated. It's when we select a page, whatever page we're on, it's going to give that information. And then we can update this information, and then we can attach, it's going to pull the image pixel locations onto the points. So every time we add a point, we know what page it's come from and we know where on the image it is. And we've got some extra metadata which we'll tune to fit our needs as we sort of go along. So back in the app, we've got points. we've got points. Now if we click off that page and we click back into that page, you can see that the points have reappeared because they're actually attached to that page, like I said. So when we have an image, the intention is going to be that we're going to flag things that we're going to are of importance, and also we're going to aim to actually rectify the images and the points inside our app and attach those rectification points onto the images so that we can easily and quickly see what points we've rectified and what page they came from and where they came from. And then rather than taking the data, the images out and then rectifying them in Arc, so rather than rectifying them in ArcMap and then updating the information in there, we can use the app to do it. So we will have a process transformations and we'll be able to dump out the rectified points and use a translation. So we'll have features on here that we're able to identify, and we'll create a 2-point grid transformation that will then be able to apply onto the points and get them out into a format that we can, like a shapefile or whatever. There's a little bit of development necessary for that we haven't quite finished off yet, but we'll get to that. So you can understand the idea that we might have some features like the prospect names, or we might have tenement boundaries. Some of the features are going to be in an unknown position, and some of them we're going to know what the position is. So when we've been doing our local grid transformations, we've been using the actual local grid system. We're going to use the same principle of a local grid system. Apart from the local grid, it's going to be the pixel coordinates of the images. And then we're going to use a couple of different things to make the rectification and then translate the points. So our maps, there's a couple of things that we were doing. We've been doing it pretty well. We've been using the scale of our maps, and we've been using the north arrows of our maps. So when you do dump the rectification out in ArcMap, it creates this JGW file. I'll just find one, actually. I'll just Google it. World file format. So the world file format is a bunch of stuff, but essentially it's this, okay? And it gives you the pixel dimensions. I think this first line is the pixel dimensions. Pixel width, pixel height, pixel width in the X and the Y, the skew, the scale, the coordinate of the upper left, pixel size, rotation, pixel size, So basically, this stuff in here is the rotations, pixel sizes, and then one of the corners of the image, okay? So essentially, if we have an image, then we should be able to know some features on the map. We know which way this map is rotated, and we'll have a scale. So we'll be able to use that information to create the 2-point transformation from the pixel coordinates to the national coordinate system. Aim of this is so that when we tag points and do our rectifications, we won't need to redigitize the points in order to move them, because we'll just update the rectification and then we will retransform the points into those new locations. So it should make it more stable, more easy to see what points have been rectified from which maps and where they are, less likely to miss stuff, because we can zoom in and we can use the cursor arrows to just carefully navigate around the map, making sure that we don't miss anything, tagging everything as we go, save them, and then it's kind of fixed to the image then. And then if we need to shift them, we can shift them without having to update the coordinates, go through that process every time, right? So that's the idea. Okay, the second thing that we can do in our app is if we hold down the R, it will see that it will say R key press, okay? Then if we left click once, it will say polygon first point, that's the upper left. And then if we keep holding down R and left click again, and then release the R key, we've made a polygon. If we open up the tasks, we can see that we've got a very similar thing to what we had before, apart from we can make polygons. In fact, a little square, these little points are actually just little polygons, but this enables us to make big polygons. That's a single point click of a fixed dimension. This is 2 points, top left, bottom right. So with these, what we're going to be able to do is, as we work through the report and we go, oh, okay, the drilling, da 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 da, maybe we say there is some assay lab details. We will say hold down R, and you've got to be a bit slow about this. Hold down R, left click, and then keep holding R and right click. And now we've got this tag for the polygon, and we can say it's assay. Let's call it, we'll just call it assay, but you get the idea. And if we save it, it didn't actually tag that, did it? I think we need to tag it after we've made it. So if we update, so now we've got an assay tag. And if we had another tag on the image, the same page, F12, I'll go through all the keyboard shortcuts, but F12 clears the selection. Hold down R, make another tag, save them. So now we've got 2. So we can right click on them, and we can do the same thing where we update. We can update it. So we're going to go through the reports, and we're going to tag everything. We're going to tag all of the information, all of the different bits of information that we need to identify in order to make sure that we've thoroughly extracted everything we need from the report. And rather than it just floating around in the text files or whatever, this is going to kind of like tie everything back to the reports. So when someone comes to review the reports, we'll know exactly where the information came from. And we can review what we're going to extract before we extract it. That way we're not going to miss stuff, and we're not going to get confused about where things come from. Because obviously a lot of time we've spent basically going back over old reports and trying to work out what's what, where's it come from, and this and that. This is going to kind of like tie that all down, tie it all together, tie it back to the reports, and sort of stop that from happening. So these IDs of information, we'll think about actually tying that information to the report by using the unique identifiers. But we'll get to that. So that's our points and our polygons. Now, I'll stop the video there, and then I'll come back and we'll carry on.